Custom Android ROMs are dead in 2024. Kind of, not fully, let me explain. If you don't know what a custom Android ROM is, then wow, you're missing a whole world of possibilities. There's even folks running Windows on their Android phones, but that's like a whole nother world of weird. But most custom Android ROMs you'll find on places like XDA developer forums are essentially stock Android that comes with extra features, usually customization. And yes, I was that guy who was looking for those customization features because I loved to change every aspect of my Android, like being able to show how much data of internet is being sent and received in the status bar. Or speaking of the status bar, have the ability to change your status bar clock location to either left, middle, or right. Why in 2024 stock Android doesn't have this? Why? There's also options to change your battery icon style and even change how quick settings look. Now you'll notice that on this specific phone, this Android version is quite old, and we'll talk about that later. One last thing to mention on the customization front is button control options. I really dislike that on stock Android, you can't change your music tracks by holding down volume buttons. Here on this ROM, you can customize what these buttons do. And this again is great and something that stock Android just doesn't have. One other underrated option is to enable your torch by holding down the power button. Look at that. That is extremely convenient when you're in the dark and need some light. Building on that last point, and this is completely subjective, but sometimes people install custom ROMs just because they don't like how their Android phone manufacturer skin looks like. So nowadays you got your One UI and HyperOS and Oxygen OS and many others, and while I don't necessarily dislike them, I just prefer stock Android due to the way that it looks. I mean, this just looks so nice. This is something that a custom launcher won't help you change because the skin affects base looks of the UI. Again, completely subjective, but it was one of the reasons why I installed a custom ROM on my original Samsung Galaxy S2 back in the day, because I didn't like TouchWiz at the time. But probably one of the best reasons to get a custom Android ROM even today is to get rid of any bloatware that your current phone might have. So nowadays, many phones come with a ton of apps that you will never need. These can be Xiaomi apps, if you own a Xiaomi phone, and even Samsung and other bigger companies are guilty of having tons of semi-useless apps. Now, I know that every version of Android that comes out gets smarter and smarter in terms of RAM management, and truth be told, all those apps ever do is take up space and they rarely run in the background unless you specifically allow them to. But I still hate the fact that you can't uninstall them and they clutter the app drawer. Now, in contrast, look at this. It's just so clean. There's like little apps, like compared to your phone that probably has a ton of apps, it's just so much nicer. And while again, this probably doesn't help the phone run any faster or anything, it just feels good to only have essential apps. And speaking of essential apps, we have Surfshark installed here, which is the ultimate security app that will cover all of your aspects of your online persona. A VPN to encrypt your online connection, check. Antivirus to keep dangerous files and apps away, check. Surfshark alert to let you know if your email or other important information got leaked, yep. Surfshark search for online searches that don't have those annoying sponsored links, also check. Oh, and there's even alternative ID feature for creating anonymous accounts online. If you're interested in supporting our channel, make sure to get Surfshark by using our new code Academy in the description below this video. That will also give you 2 additional months for absolutely free when buying a subscription. All right, now back to the video. Let's talk about rooting. No, not like that. Not like a biology class. Android rooting. To be honest, I'm kind of afraid to talk about this because YouTube might get sensitive about it because rooting usually refers to like pirated stuff, but don't tell anyone. Now, usually in the process of installing a custom Android ROM, you will be one step away from also rooting your phone. You unlock the bootloader, then install a custom recovery, which makes rooting super duper easy. So even though it's not a custom ROM thing, I'm including this as a pro because yeah, a rooted phone can allow you to install a ton of cool mods using Magisk. What I used to do is play around with my phone's CPU clocks to get extra battery life. But I mean, that was super fun because I love to tinker with devices, and this allowed me to actually get better battery life because I was underclocking my phone's CPU, which was actually kind of fun to do. So now, why did in the intro of this video I said that custom Android ROMs might be dead in 2024? Well, even though all the customization features and the lack of bloated apps and mods are nice, here's why I, in 2024, don't use a custom ROM on my Google Pixel 7. And that's the thing, I use a Pixel, which is already a really nice, mostly clean stock OS, which works well for my needs. I'm still mad that there's certain features missing, like the physical button action customization and certain status bar options, but all in all, I don't miss them that much, if I'm honest. What helps is a custom launcher too, like Nova Launcher, shout out to them. It adds a ton of customization options that most default launchers don't have. Like, honestly, stock Google Pixel Launcher sucks, and Google should really put more effort into it. But on Nova, you can do a lot of things and even hide pre-installed apps completely in the app drawer, which I really appreciate. I mean, nobody likes a cluttered app drawer. What I don't appreciate though is bugs, and depending on the custom Android ROM that you install, you may have lots and lots of annoying bugs. So on this ROM here, I had issues of the phone randomly restarting multiple times per week, I had apps crashing, I had battery life issues, and in general, it just didn't feel stable at all. It's so hard for me to really convey on how much of a con this really is, because on my original OnePlus One, which was an awesome device, an awesome phone that I had. I should do a video on that actually. But on that phone, I was using a custom ROM from day one, and there was a few that I stuck around with for a long time because they were so stable. So your mileage may vary depending on the ROM that you install. The problem is that these custom ROMs are usually maintained by just one person. So yeah, you can imagine that fixing bugs and adding new features and keeping up with security updates can be rather difficult for just one person who is doing everything. My general advice would be to use a more established ROM, like if you can. Something like Lineage OS comes to mind, or like Pixel Experience. But still, with a stock ROM, something I love is that I had very little issues, especially with my Pixel. A much bigger problem that I see with custom ROMs is the lack of security updates, like I mentioned. Again, it will depend on the ROM you use, but for example, on this phone, yeah, it hasn't been updated for a while, and I think the last update, security update that it has is from 2021, which is now 3 years old. Jeez, it's like using, probably best comparison would be like using Windows XP in 2024. That's not good at all. Also, updating a custom ROM can be a pain in the butt, again, depending on which ROM you have. There's something that you have to do, like either a clean install that will require you to boot into recovery and install a ROM file, etc., etc. It's just not as seamless as it is with a stock default ROM where you just click a button and that's it. Now, with all that being said, I still love custom Android ROMs. I love that they exist. I love that there's passionate, independent developers doing this, because there's a lot of devices out there that get left in the dust in terms of software updates. And a custom ROM can not only bring the latest features on an old phone, which I've done multiple times, but even improve security if your current official ROM isn't supported anymore. This helps reduce e-waste, and that's awesome. And it's great to see that, Google has promised 7 years of updates for their latest Google Pixel 8, and many other manufacturers and companies have started to expand their support too. For me personally, when I was younger, I really loved tinkering with every aspect of my phone and customizing it and making it just look the way I like it. Custom ROMs allowed me to do that, and I'm grateful for it. But now, I settled with my Pixel, and honestly, I'm happy with stock Android. Other stock OSs like Samsung's One UI and HyperOS have also adopted to be less bloated and obtrusive. Like seriously, they're really decent now. I'll finish off the video with this. Sometimes you don't need a new Android phone. Sometimes all you need is a fresh custom ROM. But also sometimes you don't need a new PC because your old PC is still good. Go watch this video next where we tried to use an almost 2-decade-old computer in 2024. And surprisingly, it's still very capable. I'll see you in that video, and bye for now.